Want to know why? Ask how. Howard the Humongous.
In the first week of Democratic Party candidate debates, the candidates used a key phrase hundreds of times: kitchen table issues. To win against Donald Trump, the Democratic candidates declared us Democrats have to win over the working classes, the blue-collar folks, who went overwhelmingly for Donald Trump in the 2016 elections, particularly in the states of the Rust Belt, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Those hard-working Americans, said the candidates, want financial security and financial progress. They want jobs they can feel secure about. They want more of those jobs. They want a bigger paycheck. They want to be able to send their kids to college. They want assurance that they won't be crippled by medical debts when they get older. They want to know that when they need medical care, they can get it. And they want to be able to afford the meds a doctor might recommend. Or, to put it in Kamala Harris's terms, working Americans do not want a food fight, they want food on the table. But this emphasis on kitchen table values is wrong. It won't win the hearts of the working class. Why? There is something that the blue-collar working classes want even more than kitchen table matters. Far more. It's called status. They want standing on the social totem pole. They want to move up in the pecking order. Status is more important to us hierarchical animals than the basics, than food, clothing, and shelter. And what gives us a feeling of status? When our team wins. When our team beats the crap out of some other team. And when we are given permission to beat the hell out of the rival team's fans, to rank on them, to humiliate them, to pick on them. What public figure provides that sense of battle, that sense of the ability to defeat your enemies, the rival team, and that permission to beat the crap out of the losers? Not a generous philanthropist like Warren Buffett, Michael Bloomberg, or Melinda Gates. Donald Trump. Politics is permission to hate. That's what Trump's singling out the illegal immigrants at the Mexican border as dangerous invaders is all about. That's what Trump's calling the illegals murderers and rapists is all about. Donald Trump gives his followers permission to hate the tired, the poor, the huddled masses yearning to be set free at our southern border. Yes, Donald Trump gives his followers a sense of lofty status by giving them someone to abuse. What does status have to do with abuse? Everything. If you train a rat to run down a straight corridor that looks like a small bowling alley to get a piece of food, when you set your rodent down at the far end of the alley, the rat will run toward the food with enthusiasm. Let him do this 20 times, and he will get into the habit of corridor running. Then put an electrified grid in front of the food, a grid that sizzles his feet. When he reaches the grid, it will come literally as a shock. Yet the food is still just a few inches away from his nose, staring at him with all of its deliciousness, kept from his reach by a barrier of pain. How does the rat handle this frustration? Give him another rat, preferably one smaller than he is, and he will beat the bejesus out of the innocent rodent. Now try something a bit different. Put 7 rats on an electrified grid. Turn on the current. Once more, you wicked person, you are sizzling the rat's feet. All 14 of them. How do the rats respond to the pain? Do they huddle in a mass and hug to give each other comfort? Something rats do a lot in their nests? No, the strongest 6 feel out who they are. They all sense who the weakest is, then they beat the bejesus out of the poor, innocent, weakest rat. Frustration leads to aggression, and it leads to a pecking order that puts some poor innocent on the bottom and uses him or her as a scapegoat. In other words, we humans, like rats, are comforted in our pain, comforted and exhilarated by having someone we can beat the crap out of. Under the Trump administration, the weakest rats on the electrified grids are immigrants coming in from Mexico. That's one reason we are not motivated by kitchen table issues. We get a thrill out of beating up the little guy, and out of being told that our abuse of those weaker than we are is justified. We get a thrill out of status. Then there's the experiment with capuchin monkeys that shows just how low on the priority list food, clothing, and shelter really is. 2 capuchin monkeys are trained to use pebbles as money. You and a monkey 4 feet away. Hand your pebble to me, the experimenter, and I will give you food. You and the other monkey in the room get precisely the same food. If you get a grape, the other monkey gets a grape. If you get a banana, the other monkey gets a banana. In other words, you have equality. Income equality. One day, the experimenter, me, asks for your pebble and hands you a cucumber. Then I ask for your companion's pebble, and something outrageous happens. I hand your fellow monkey, your neighbor, a grape. Grapes are delicious. Cucumbers are not. What do you, a capuchin monkey, do? You hurl your cucumber out of the cage with all the strength that's in you, and you set up a mighty squall. You protest. Why? Because I, the experimenter, have just set up a social totem pole and put you on the bottom. I've just set up a pecking order, and I've singled you out as the lowest and the least. Now, think of this from the point of view of logic for a minute. Let's say a cucumber is 100 calories and a grape is 200 calories. When I handed you a cucumber, that put you up by 100 on your calorie count for the day. So if you got into a rage and threw that cucumber out, you are deducting 100 from your calorie score. That would be foolish, wouldn't it? Yes, according to the theory that underlies economics and many of the social sciences, that theory is called rational self-interest. According to that theory, you will act rationally about your selfish interests, and 100 extra calories is 100 extra calories. Your calorie count is a kitchen table issue. But you, the capuchin monkey with the cucumber, defy rational self-interest. You don't care about kitchen table issues. You show that something is more important to you than 100 extra calories. And that something more important is status. The Democratic Party, my party, has been using rational self-interest theory to understand its potential voters. And rational self-interest is wrong. We social animals will trade food for rank any day of the week. We will trade food for status. One more experiment shows how these things work among us human beings. I, the experimenter, offer you 2 choices. You can have an income of $200,000 per year, but your neighbor will get $300,000, a full $100,000 more than you do. You will glide, but he will soar. Or you can have an income of a mere $100,000 per year, but your neighbor will only get $110,000, just a smidge more than your annual haul. Which do you choose? Most people choose the $100,000. They are willing to sacrifice $100,000 a year for the pleasure of bringing down the status of their neighbor. They are willing to pay a fortune to make sure their neighbor's status does not tower over theirs. Why? When you got a respectable $200,000, but your neighbor got a fabulous $300,000, it lowered you in your competition for status with your neighbor, in the same way that the cucumber lowered the status of the capuchin monkey with respect to his neighbor with the grape. And what happens to those who are low in the pecking order? When things get tough and frustration is in the air, those on the top get the privilege of beating up those on the bottom. They get the pleasure of using those on the bottom as scapegoats. No wonder the monkey, with the cucumber, tossed his vegetable away and protested with all his might. He wanted to be one of the beaters, not one of the beaten. But give those on the bottom someone even smaller and weaker, someone they can abuse, someone they can beat up on, and they are no longer on the bottom. In fact, they feel like they are on the top. And give them a team captain who lives in a tower in the sky and gets to have sex with the most beautiful women on earth, and you give those on the bottom the sense that their team is winning. You give the sense that the team near the bottom is brilliantly on top. That's the illusion that Donald Trump gives. The captain of their team is fabulously rich. He's like a hockey puck that they've gotten into the goal. So they, the Trumpites, in their hearts, have scored a goal. They are rich too. Their whole team is rich. Rich and richly rewarded. rewarded with the daily thrill of loathing, despising, hating, and abusing the folks on the bottom. Who are those folks on the bottom? Immigrants. Kitchen table issues mattered less to the Capuchin monkey than status. And kitchen table issues matter less to the working class than status. In fact, kitchen table issues can't compete with the thrill of scapegoating those who come from Mexico. And kitchen table issues can't compete with the thrill of seeing your captain's team revel in riches. Politics is permission to hate. Who can we in the Democratic Party legitimately hate? Donald Trump, the man who is desecrating, trashing, shitting on America's values, the man who is making a mockery of honesty, tolerance, pluralism, and freedom of speech. The bottom line, kitchen table issues are an illusion. From lobsters and lizards to monkeys and humans, we social animals hunger for status. This is Howard the Humongous, speaking to you from the future. It's your job and my job to make. Or, want to know why? Ask how. And now for that salami-like, sneaky sleazy, impossible to find, insidious little off button. I think I've got it.